They had nothing on Trump, nothing on anybody when it came to Russia collusion, because it was a lie. And here you get chapter and verse of the activities that took place in order to try and set up Trump. A complete abuse of power. We have never seen this kind of abuse of power. Where is the FBI in the Constitution? Nowhere. Where's the Department of Justice? Nowhere. Congress is in the Constitution as the first branch of government under Article 1, and its main responsibility, in addition to spending and borrowing, is to oversee the other branches from the perspective of creating legislation. So if the FBI can say sources and practices, and they're immune from any kind of oversight, then we have something that's been created that is akin to an East German Stasi. Because you cannot control an entity like this if there's no oversight. What do you think the founding fathers would say about this massive federal law enforcement entity that gets involved in intelligence, that gets involved in local crimes, that gets involved in international crimes, and doesn't want to be accountable to anybody? They would look at this and say, what the hell did you do to the country? What is wrong with you? And it's a fair question. I never used to think about it this way, particularly when I was in the Justice Department, but it is a huge problem right now. And so they keep asking for more money, for more personnel. The biggest investigation they've ever conducted is against Trump protesters. Now think about that. It's an FBI that has threatened parents at school board meetings. You remember the memo? It's an FBI that has gone after 34 pro-lifers who have protested at abortion clinics, and went after one individual, who vandalized a church. That's it. It's an FBI who has not arrested a single person for violating federal law when it comes to threatening or intimidating Supreme Court justices. And they have targeted online and at restaurants the conservatives on the court. And they did it before the Dobbs decision, and they've done it since the Dobbs decision. And Christopher Murphy, a senator from Connecticut, said the other day that if the Supreme Court rules the wrong way on gun control, people are going to rise up. Remember Schumer threatening 2 justices of the Supreme Court? Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, the 2 new justices at the time. On the abortion issue, there's going to be a whirlwind. If you rule the wrong way, threatening the court left and right, nobody's charged with anything there. Nobody's held to account at all, because the Democrat Party hates this country, and the Democrat Party is very militant, and when necessary is very violent. It's an amazing thing. They talk about January 6 insurrectionists. Really? You know what insurrections are? They don't have evidence that 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 people were armed and rushed the building. That's an insurrection. Or that they did in fact succeed in harming somebody in the building. It's the other way around. A veteran was shot dead through the glass. They don't have any evidence that democracy was on the line. Democracy wasn't on the line. And I am not defending the violent people there, and I never have. That's not my point. I have no problem with being factual about what took place. I have a big problem with them exploiting it on the left for the purpose of advancing their insurrection, which is conducted every single day through the bureaucracy, through the courts, and through their very politicized form of so-called justice. And so what's happening to Donald Trump today has happened to Donald Trump when this report talks about the episodes that took place against Donald Trump. Sources and methods, sources and practices. We can't tell you what we're doing. Oh, okay. So what do we do about all this? Well, I have to be honest with you. I've looked into this myself. I talked about it on Hannity the other night. A former member of Congress part of Newt Gingrich's group of young Turks back then, contacted me, a man I have great respect for, named Robert Walker. So he was a congressman from Pennsylvania, and he was one of the great, advocates of democracy and liberty when he was serving. He's about 80 years old now, but he's as active as can be. He contacted me and he wrote me and he said that there's this rule, a rule I don't quite understand, but a rule that apparently others do, that enables one member, just one member of the House, to try and change certain appropriations in a particular bill or budget. The only thing that member needs is the approval of the chairman of the Rules Committee. But without getting into all the weeds, and why did he mention that? Because I mentioned on Hannity's show that the way the Republicans can control the FBI is to slash its budget, slash its personnel, break it into pieces, put it back together again, but in terms of putting it back together again, making sure that this kind of power cannot be centralized under one roof. And so while I don't have all the ideas, those are some of the ideas, and I think they're very important because this entity has gotten way too strong. I feel the same way about the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice doesn't think it has any limits on its authority. None. And it's been totally politicized by the Marxist hacks that are there now, starting at the top, but particularly the Deputy Attorney General, the Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division, the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, and the Associate Attorney General. They're all radical, leftist Marxists, and they're using their muscle to destroy this country, and we cannot have it. And the idea that even today, the Attorney General of the United States is not appointed as special counsel under the special counsel regulation, when it's certainly called for here, given the information that has been disclosed by Mr. Comer and his committee. By the way, information the federal government has, the executive branch, and sat on, is simply unacceptable. So now that I've laid all that out, let's take a listen to Rachel Maddow, the highest rated host on MSNBC, because she must have lots of smart stuff to say. Go.
For 4 long years, John Durham's supposedly bombshell findings were always tantalizingly close. The damning evidence was going to come any day. It has really never worked out the way they hoped. In sum total, what John Durham got out of his investigation was one guilty plea.
All right, stop. The job of a special counsel, like the old independent counsel, is not just to charge people. It is to lay out the information to the American people. That is why a special counsel, or in the old days, the independent counsel, is the only prosecutor, only one, that produces this. Otherwise, the prosecutor's only talking is in court and perhaps at a press conference. But these reports are required by special counsel and no other prosecutors. So first of all, she's an ignoramus, okay? Secondly, she won't state the obvious, which is it's a Democrat city that voted, I think, 93% for Joe Biden. And so he charges 2 people. And here's the problem. There are a lot of cases of abuses of power that do not comfortably fit within statutory language in the criminal code. One of the problems you have with this guy, Jack the Ripper Smith, the special counsel in Washington against Trump, is he's taking some of these arcane laws and twisting them and applying them to modern day and applying them to situations today, and he'll get convictions with Democrat juries and Democrat judges. But that doesn't necessarily work for a guy like Durham, who, number one, has more integrity and honesty about the process, and number two, is really on the opposite side, because what's he doing? He's investigating what the Democrats, the Obama administration, the Biden administration, Obama-Biden, did to Trump and the Republicans. That's never going to receive a receptive audience in Washington, whether it's a grand jury, a trial jury, or anybody else. Go.
Plea out of an FBI lawyer, an FBI employee, who admitted he made a misrepresentation in a single email.
He didn't make a oh my God. He didn't make a single misrepresentation in an email. He literally white out the word and put a different word on an intelligence email and submitted it as part of a warrant request, a FISA warrant request, to the FISA judge to get the warrant. Now listen to how she downplays this stuff. They had nothing on Trump, nothing on anybody when it came to Russia collusion, because it was a lie. And here you get chapter and verse of the activities that took place in order to try and set up Trump. A complete abuse of power. We have never seen this kind of abuse of power.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.